Welcome, friends, to Daniel and Larissa's channel. Very soon, Orthodox Christians all over the world will celebrate their main holiday, the Feast of Holy Pascha. Accordingly, all of us will begin to cook kuleks, paskas, babki, kozunaks, all of which is called Easter bread. In Ukraine, Easter bread is served on the It's called Pascha, so today we'll adopt this name, and we sausage makers have made our own Easter bread, our own meat Easter, which you can also put in a basket and take it to the church to light, replacing the sausages instead. It looks very interesting, completely unusual. So, dear friends, let's proceed with this recipe, shared with us by our subscriber Igor Novitsky and developed by him and his friend who wished to remain incognito. They named it Fastivskashinka and offered us to make a video on this topic, which we will be happy to do for you. Essentially, meat pasta is a kind of meat bread. And just like any meat bread will need ingredients. Specifically, we'll prepare a quick pre-salting using a salting blend composed of 50% nitrite salt with a sodium nitrite content of 0.4, 0.6 and 50% table salt. All the ingredients shown in this video can be purchased at the Craft Store online store, Ukraine's largest supermarket for home crafting supplies. You can find a wide variety of ingredients for homemade sausages and smoked meats in our store. We offer an extensive selection of casings, a large variety of spices, and a huge range of equipment like syringes, thermal smoke chambers, cutters, and meat grinders. In addition, we also have a wide array of equipment for home distillery and cheese making. To prepare meat pasta, we'll need, in this case, we'll use a collar. Of course, you can also use a spatula or a bag and a salting mixture with nitrite salt in the amount of 18 grams per kilogram of raw materials. 9 grams of nitrite and 9 grams of table salt. The monosugar crystallite can be replaced with regular sugar. In addition to this, we'll use allspice, cardamom, and black pepper. Friends, you can get the freshest and highest quality spices. Next, let's move on to the preparation of meat. We need to cut it into thin slices, as thin as possible. For this purpose, I froze the neck a little and now I cut it into these wonderful strips. At this time, Kiryusha came for her portion of meat. Kiryusha, you're not in the frame. Yes, you want delicious meat, my kitty. These are my gilded. Here, hold your delicious meat and we keep cutting the necks. I'll salt about 10% of the raw materials in small cubes and cook ground meat from it in 2 days, when we'll be preparing the ground meat directly for cooking. This will be the basis of the sausage, like a ground meat matrix right away. I already anticipate a lot of questions. Is it possible to do without nitrate? Yes, friends, it is possible, but then this meatloaf will turn out not a beautiful red color, but gray, while this will practically not affect the taste. Yes, nitrite salt slightly changes the taste of the finished raw material, imparting more precisely the finished product a brighter ham-like flavor. But in this case, If Easter is right around the corner and you want to urgently cook this bread, you didn't have time to buy nitrite salt from us, it's not a problem. You can cook it with ordinary salt. But I repeat, all of this will not have as beautiful an appearance as ours, but will be grayish. We knead thoroughly. Look, our task is to ensure even salting of all these pieces. If one of the slices is not salted, then it'll be in our meat Easter loaf, which will turn out grayish later. So I'll mix everything thoroughly. I'm mixing thoroughly to ensure every raw piece gets its own portion of nitrite salt. After I salted the required amount of meat, I measured it. For baking dishes, you can use regular classic molds where you usually bake Easter cakes. We'll use these pots, or you can also use a regular disposable foil mold for Easter. I put the right amount in each mold. I realized I was a little short of raw ingredients, so I added 150 more. Friends, you'll find a link to the text step-by-step recipe in the description of the video, which is also located in a special section on our website, Craft 100, where you can find all the text step-by-step recipes for all our videos. Also, note that we've created a library section on the roof, which has a vast number of books for free download on sausage making. Distilling, cheese making, and other interesting craft activities. We have very interesting books dating back to the end of the 19th century. This is about books on sausages. Next, we send our raw materials for salting. There are several ways to do this. You could leave it right in the container, compacted well. You can also put it in a plastic bag. I've been lately. I prefer to salt in a vacuum, especially since we have such cheap vacuum sealers on our website, which are actually cheaper than mushrooms on a market day. We send the vacuum-packed raw materials to the refrigerator, where it will spend 2 days at a temperature not higher than 34 degrees Fahrenheit. And of course, in 2 days, we will continue to create. Preparations for the Easter holidays were in full swing, for example. Yesterday, I brewed a beer type, either sweet beer or wheat beer. Wheat beer, that's right, I got it mixed up. So the video will also be released on the channel soon. If you remember, initially, we cut a little bit of the raw material into pieces for. To cook minced meat, now you need to play Cinderella and find these pieces, of course. It will be quite problematic because it is also well compressed here. And where the slices are, where the chunks are, that's a slice. It's completely unclear. These are chunks in general. Pay attention. By the way, look how nicely the meat is salted in a vacuum. The results of our natural selection, we mince in a meat grinder with the smallest grid you have. Following that, we need to thoroughly knead the minced meat. Important note, before I began making the minced meat, I put everything in the freezer for about 30 minutes. All of it had practically frozen. I will knead it by hand, adding cold water, calculated at 50-60 grams per kilogram of product. I add everything. Spices. Now I want to greet all the haters who will post a comment like, "Ew, he's kneading the minced meat with his bare hands." Friends, you forgot to write again that the code was on the table. My minced meat, my sausage, this is my future feast. And you, please put on gloves. This is required so your meatloafs will turn out tasty. Knead thoroughly for about 15 minutes, making sure all the water we add here gets mixed in stages into the minced meat, making the mixture homogeneous and sticky. In the end, we got a perfectly homogeneous and sticky minced meat. Preheat the oven to 70 degrees. I'll go wash my hands now. I should have put on gloves but didn't. So let's wash our hands before we start forming our meat Easter. Divide the minced meat into roughly 2 equal parts for our meat Easter. Depending on the number of Easter cakes you need to bake, divide accordingly. We've prepared real Easter bread. A classic combo or jacota will be our festive bread along with our meat. Depending on your mold type, do it right from the start. Even during the salting stage, measure the molds with minced meat. On the mold bottom, we place a piece of baking parchment cut out to the diameter. Now we follow this process, and somehow I get the feeling I didn't divide them into equal parts, but I can fix that. Yes, indeed, the pieces were unequal, so well I can adjust it this way. We then carefully align everything according to the shape, striving to form the shape of the item itself, so it somewhat resembles Easter bread. In the process, now I will take some cold water to smooth it nicely, doing something like this. I dip the spatula in cold water and smooth it. Even though it sticks, we can manage to produce an even mold, or rather not an even mold, but an even cap for our meat Easter bread. In short, I'm not sure what to call it. Now, about the hat. I think I'll get my share of criticism for this, but don't think it's a hat. It's a meat Easter bread. It's also paska, kulic, kolak, or kozunak, as it's also called. It has a lot of names. Friends, let's move on. For the heat treatment, place our meat-filled Easter breads in the oven, preheated to 70 degrees, and bake at that temperature for an hour. I'll insert the probe of a cooking thermometer into one of them to keep track of the temperature. While this magnificence is baking, we'll prepare the glaze. The classic glaze recipe consists of half a glass of blood, a chicken egg, and spices to taste, just a pinch of red and black pepper. We'll prepare our own variations. Half a spoonful of honey for each type of glaze. Then, for the first option, I'll add some chili pepper. Let's do it like this.
somewhere like that. Here we'll measure half a teaspoon and then add barbecue sauce. We tried this on meat straws and the glaze turned out really great. I really liked it. It was simply tasty. For the next batch, I'll use soy sauce and about half a teaspoon of standard ketchup. By the way, the ketchup is the one from childhood. We stir all this well. In an hour, folks, here's the picture. 70 degrees in the oven and 33 degrees inside our bread. Let's see. We increase the temperature to 110 for another hour. Another hour has passed. This is how everything looks. Let's have a look. Then we raise the temperature to 130 and bring the inside temperature to 65 to 66 degrees. After 15 minutes, everything is ready. We pull out our bread from the oven. Whoops! They are heavy. Then we try to get them out of the mold. Oh boy, come on out, dear. Our bread turned out like Easter cakes. They're hot. Oh my, they're so hot, friends. Straight to the baking sheet. We've got one more process to go through, and it sure is inconvenient. It's convenient to do this on video. It's very hot, huh? It worked out. Then we take the prepared glaze beautifully. I don't know. You can see, friends, it's hot and it's very, very uncomfortable for me to smear it, show it, and burn it. Everything in one, of course. If I did all this without a video, I wouldn't be so clumsy. But the purpose of all this action is, first of all, to show you how beautiful it is. Yes, said or not. We heat the oven to a temperature of 170 degrees, in the same way with the second type. We glaze the second Easter bread. Look, they look like real Easter bread.
Isn't that wonderful? Next, we need to decorate it on top. Here again, the fantasy of the presence of the necessary ingredients in your refrigerator, well, or rather not in the refrigerator, in the pantry, let's say in the cabinet. My pantry pleased me only with sesame, so I sprinkled, by the way, black sesame would look very beautiful here. Sprinkle all this with sesame. Look, right now in the comments, your mouth's watered, but just write honestly because it smells so delicious here. And as you understand, you could also play with spices here. We showed you only, and the concept and technology, well, we're going to taste all of this. Baked at a temperature of 170 degrees. Our beauty goes into the oven for another 5 minutes, so the glaze bakes beautifully. After 5 minutes, we pull out our masterpiece and you see, ouch, hot pan. Pay attention to how it looks. It's still better to put in the pan and the oven can be switched off. We ended up with 2 such wonderful Easter breads. Look how beautiful.
Friends, tomorrow I'll tell you how tasty it is. We need to bake more Easter bread in its natural shape, that is, Easter breads. By the next day, all is ready for the holiday. We baked real Easter bread. Here it is. We have 2 Easter meatloaves. I'm also brewing beer and preparing Japanese rice whiskey, awamori. The video is already up on the channel. You can watch it, and we will slice open the meatloaf and see what we got. And as you likely understand, you can improvise here. You can adjust the composition to your preferences and tastes. I reiterate, the recipe is from a subscriber. Look at this beautiful slice. In my opinion, it turned out just splendid. Let's cut off a small piece and taste it. Of course, I will taste it with Easter meatloaf, but I really like this slice. It is simply very beautiful and will handsomely decorate the festive table. And in spite of the fact that our Easter bread has raisins and cranberries and Easter meatloaf with pork, I think the combo will be excellent, especially for Easter Sunday at the family gathering. Let's give it a try. This meatloaf is really awesome, with a very visible meat structure and a bold flavor. It pairs well with a standard pasca for a snack. It's a fantastic pairing. Sweet, fluffy Easter bread and sausage. If we put all jokes aside, this meatloaf is really great. I loved the idea of slicing the raw ingredients and kneading them like this. First, it results in a beautiful marbled pattern. Second, the meaty flavor is very well preserved. But the presentation of this dish is really impressive. These will be quite unique for the holiday table. I personally have never come across an Easter cake, Easter bread or babka made from meat in the form of meat bread. I think this is a great idea. It's actually really delicious, a nice meaty bread, good, cool, with a strong meat flavor. So dear friends, we're happy to present to you this idea for your holiday table. Don't forget to thank the author of this idea in the comments, because they were the inspiration for this video. And of course, if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel, give us a like, ring the bell, and Larissa and I will cook tasty cheeses, sausages, and homemade alcohol for you. Stay tuned with us. All the best. Goodbye.